Here we are with Dungeons and Dragons House Rules number 11. Okay, so you guys have probably heard me make this comment before, that there are things about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that I love, and then there's things about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that I wish they had left alone. So, some of those things that I wish they had left alone, I just go ahead and do it the old way. And this, to me, I thought this years and years ago, and I've shared it with other gamers and stuff. This proves the superiority of tabletop RPGs, because if a company changes your game, okay, this is your game. I know that they own the intellectual property rights and blah blah blah. But hey, if this game has become part of your life, this is your game, right? Okay, so when some company changes your game, and if it's a computer game, then you're stuck with it. Like, because they just patch it. How many times, I don't really have a lot of time in my life for MMOs anymore. But back when I did, if somebody would patch their game, some company would patch their game, and all us players, who didn't like the changes in the patch would all complain and everything. We were kind of stuck with it. Unless you want to go to the extravagant lengths, of building your own server with some, other unlicensed version of the game, unless you wanted to make some sort of alternate pirate server out there or something, underground server, what have you. But if you were going to play, like the official game on the server with all the other people that officially play it from the company, once a patch comes out, you're stuck with it. You can't just roll back a patch just for your own personal play, just because that's your own personal preference. But with tabletop RPGs, if you don't like a particular book, don't use that book. If you don't like a particular edition, play the previous edition, or even a previous edition, what have you. So that's the superiority of tabletop RPGs, is house rules rule. Okay. You can play the game the way you want it. You're not stuck with, how the developers patched it for this version. So let's get into house rule number 11. It has to do with the Ring of Regeneration. So in 5th edition, I noticed that the Ring of Regeneration no longer, canonically, if you're going to do it just like it was written in the book, it no longer canonically brings back the dead. This is stupid. I hate it. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for 39 years. I've played every edition, and except the edition that shall not be named. I bought a couple of the books for that, but I never actually played it. So every edition except the edition that shall not be named. But and of course, most of us during that time that the edition that was not be named out, we went over to Pathfinder. That's pretty much why the Pathfinder company exists. It was the alternative to the edition that shall not be named. But anyway, so the Ring of Regeneration now, if you look it up in your 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, doesn't bring back the dead. Now the thing is, this never broke the game before. It wouldn't break the game now. Back when the Ring of Regeneration could bring out the dead, it had some pretty important stipulations. Stipulation number 1 was you had to be wearing it at the time you died. And it had to stay on your finger for like an hour, so nobody could if somebody ripped it off your finger, if somebody looted your corpse, then the Ring of Regeneration would not be on there long enough to bring you back. It took something like an hour to bring you back, and if that was interrupted because somebody jerked it off your finger, just because you happen to be dead, well, in the words of a Princess Bride movie, he's not dead, he's just mostly dead. So the Ring of Regeneration had to be on your finger at the time you died, had to stay on your finger, nobody could take it off. The most important stipulation that kept it from being rule breaking, game breaking. The most important stipulation that kept it from being OP and game breaking was that you couldn't just start putting it on the fingers of corpses and bringing them back. It could only bring back the person who was wearing it if they were wearing it when they died. And the final stipulation was that because most forms of regeneration in Dungeons and Dragons are not good against acid damage and fire damage, neither was the Ring of Regeneration. And so even if if you had died and some of the damage that had come off your hit points was due to acid damage or fire damage, then you just, those particular hit points are not going to come back. If you'd been completely destroyed by acid damage and fire damage, or some combination thereof, then you wouldn't be able to come back at all. So the Ring of Regeneration was just another way to get your character back. It wasn't any more powerful than Raise Dead spells in the game already. It wasn't any more powerful than Resurrection spells in the game already. And lots of characters over the decades of history of Dungeons & Dragons came back from a Ring of Regeneration. My characters did it back in the day. So, does not break the game. And so when I DM, house rule number 11 in this series of Dungeons & Dragons house rules is that I do Rings of Regeneration the old way. So if you like Rings of Regeneration the old way, or any of our other house rules, come to GameShopsBasement.com, jump into our games, or it's even fun to have nerdy debates and everything. If you don't like our house rules, mention something in the YouTube comments, or catch up with me on Discord or something. Nothing like a bunch of nerds hanging around talking D&D. So even if they disagree, so let's let's get into some gaming. All right, so I'll see you guys in game. So right now I'm sitting outside on a patio making D&D videos as part of what I do to get paid. I'm a professional game master, and if you're a game master and you've thought of making some money at it, you can too. We have at the Game Shop's Basement a 7 days to Pro GM course that teaches in 7 lessons what took me 50 days to do, to build up my business to the point where I don't need my job anymore. So that's kind of exciting. Or maybe you just want to make a little extra money, have a little bit of a diverse income stream. That's kind of a smart thing to do these days with the world being all crazy. Or you might want something that you can work from home without having to go anywhere. Well, check into Pro DMing. So at GameShopsBasement.com, at the top of the webpage, we've got a banner that will take you to a page where you can learn more information about the 7 days to Pro GM course. And it's fun. It's exciting. Check it out.